utility, and in return for doing that, they were allowed to go out on the market and see if they could find cheaper sources of power. Mostly the residents, or their rates were lower, and so they haven't wanted to shop, and so for the most part they haven't shopped. And again, those that didn't shop have remained under regulatory protection. And because we kind of had the best of both worlds, I do think utilities internally have been watching their rates because they don't want people to leave. It's part of my job also, again, to make sure that they're financially healthy. So unlike other states, we've allowed them to come in through the years and ask for reasonable rate increases. We have given out hundreds of millions of dollars in rate increases, but overall, Michigan's rates have actually gone down on every single customer class since 2000. So industrial, commercial, residential. At the same time, nationally, everybody's rates are going up. Michigan started about 4% above the national rate, and now we're about 2% below. So I'm a firm believer that something's working. We have some work to do to decide how future builds, which I know you'll ask about, are made. But to this point, I think the utilities have been healthy. I think customers have had the option of leaving or staying. And at least to this point, I think all parties have worked out just fine in Michigan.
So what we've done in Michigan is kind of an intermediary
Exactly.
step. We didn't go as far as California. In fact, I can remember as we were writing that legislation, we looked to California as to what not to do.
And that was before they had all their problems.
Right.
And so I remind people that people think Michigan didn't do that because they saw what happened in California. And actually, I think that was good forward thinking on the behalf of the legislature and then governor, thinking this is too untested. We want to see how this will really work. And so that was very, very prudent in Michigan at a time when both bundled and deregulated states have seen massive increases. Michigan's increases have really been around 7-10% or so. Not that bad at all.
No, and that's true. I mean, we have seen some, but when you look at what's happened in other states around us, they've seen astronomical increases,
yes,
or
some have
are
seen
potential
very large
astronomical increases in the case of one state right beneath us or south of us. So
and I want to point out those are states too that aren't necessarily deregulated.
Right.
So it's a fallacy that only the deregulated states have seen large increases. Even those states that stayed under traditional regulation have seen some healthy increases.
As we talk about this, I know that most of, probably a lot of the people who are watching are homeowners and have residential electric, and perhaps are not as involved in the business community to know what's happened on the business community side of this issue, which is very important because it's important for businesses to stay in our state and to grow. One of the first items that businesses look at when they're looking either to grow in a state or to move to another state or to even come to Michigan is the cost of utilities, because for a lot of businesses the cost of utilities is one of the biggest costs that they experience. And I want to talk a little bit about what happened in the business community as we went into a restructured environment, and how the business community responded, and the good and the bad with that.
The business community overall, one of their main concerns in Michigan is what we call de-skewing. One of their main concerns is again, public policy-wise, they are not necessarily at their true cost of service in Michigan because they're subsidizing. Actually, I think they get it on both ends. They're subsidizing some residential costs and potentially some industrial costs. The Commission has been working on de-skewing. There's still a push to bring, there's a little bit left of skewing, and you can bring that down. However, I warn people that something like low income again, helping those Michigan citizens that truly need help on their bills, that's going to be a public policy. It's consistently deemed to be a public policy by the legislature. the commission continues to implement that. That's skewing. When you have a large industrial that gets a special rate, even though we try not to allocate that to other classes, the more you do that, the more it's going to be skewed. So,
Commissioner, can you hold on just a second here? When you say skewing, I think a lot of people may not really understand that. Basically what it is one area of the consumer base pays a little bit more to give another area of the consumer base a lower rate.
Correct. And
now some would call that subsidization. I'm not going to
yes.
call it that, but
yes.
when you have several customer bases and one part really pays their own way, another
yes.
part does not pay their own way,
yes.
but pays more, and another part may be paying less,
yes.
then
yes.
you've got some people who are paying more to help the others
yes.
who are paying a lower rate.
And again, that's part of our job to try to sort through that and to try to get each class to their true cost of service within the framework that we can work in, taking the heed from the legislature. Every class, though, will say that they have more costs than they should, and even some say, well, those that are out on electric choice are getting a free ride, and they will be the first to argue, no, we have skewed rates because we're paying more environmental costs than we should, we're paying more distribution costs than we should. So again, that's kind of the messy rate making that the commission works on. But I think what has helped, the commercial class has been the biggest class to take advantage of electric choice. And you know, we can work with residents, and we go into the communities, and we tell them we're very serious in Michigan about working on energy efficiency. I know the legislature is talking about this, demand response, energy efficiency, what you can do through insulation, how you can cut down on your bills through time of usage. These things, a lot of residents are able to tailor their usage in order to impact their bills. The commercial classes, the businesses, it's much, much more difficult for them to do that. They can. Walmart and others are doing some fantastic things with solar and energy efficiency and whatnot. But it's harder. It's harder when you're running a line.
Right.
It's harder when you're GM when you're a furniture manufacturer to conserve, because they're in the business of producing. They're in the business
and often they're producing 24/7.
Yes, for the
or
big
24
industrials.
hours
Absolutely.
a day, 6 days a week.
Absolutely.
So they can't throw a load of clothes in the washing machine
No.
before they go to bed at
No.
night at 11 o'clock,
And
like
even
people in the consumer or in the household consumer
Yeah.
base can.
And even the smaller commercial, just, you know, the people that have stores, the people that are running stores. So I do think, again, up to this point, the best of both worlds has worked really well for all. I have the statistics to prove it, to work very well for all of the classes, including commercial, because the tag team of the competitive pressure of potentially losing that customer, which helps in and of itself, I believe, temper rates, with the regulator, using the regulator as well, watching over the rates. I think it's a best of both worlds that's helped us really temper our rates in the right direction.
Well, and one thing I would like to point out, and I know you and I have discussed this before, but in the 24th District, we have several small and mid-sized businesses, and a lot of them have chosen to go to consumer choice. In other words, the restructuring has helped them because they literally go out on the open market to buy their power. They don't necessarily buy it from the incumbent utility that most of the residential, the homeowners in their area may buy it from. And they've almost always saved money, or at least kept it at a rate that was consistent and not the ups and downs that some of the incumbent utilities have done. And I know in some cases we have businesses within the 24th District who, because of that, and their CEOs will tell you this, chose to grow their businesses in Michigan. We have some areas of our state where we would not have some of the large employer base today that we do if it weren't